Hello, I'm Charlie Brooker and you're watching Screenwipe, a programme all about television news. Oh, a programme all about television news. The world is a complex place full of things that are happening, and some of those things are more significant than others. Look, here's something happening. Oh, boring. And here's something else. Dullo. Yes, most of the time what's happening in any given area is incredibly mundane. Of course, given the size and complexity of our planet, you can bet something important's happening somewhere else in the world right now. But your eyes and ears can only go so far, so you'll have to rely on someone else to tell you all about it. In days of yore, wandering minstrels used to roam hither and thither, singing tales of exciting events in far-off lands. Charming though they may have been, the need to entertain meant their stories had an alarming bullshit-to-truth ratio.
A dragon went a-sailing in a dinghy made of cake.
Bullshit detected!
Zip forward several hundred years to the Industrial Revolution and regular national newspapers start to appear, summarising global events of far-reaching import in a handy format that could be easily read while resting your feet on a servant. Then radio arrived, making it possible for people to hear the news in the comfort of their own heads.
The back motors of the Hindenburg are holding it just enough to keep it from... Oh, I say, it's burst into flames. Gosh, and it's falling rather delightfully and sending lovely plumes of smoke up into the sky. And there are people on fire, and they're absolutely screaming away like Billy-O. It's all rather dotty. Oh, the humanity.
Today, the majority of people discover what's happening in the world by watching the news spooling out of this thing. Yes, TV news is the wandering minstrel of today, and while it doesn't exactly make up stories about dragons anymore, its desire to entertain is almost as pressing. But that wasn't always the case.
In Britain's first daily news programme, the main news was delivered without an on-screen presenter and without any moving pictures because they were considered far too distracting.
It took a year before the first news presenter made it on screen, E.R. Thompson, who spent most of the time talking to his shoe.
Sir Anthony Eden accepted Her Majesty's offer and kissed hands upon his appointment.
For this show, I ordered in a load of random old news bulletins from the BBC archive and then spent a weekend watching them, because that's how I roll.
Watching old news reports is downright creepy, like peering through a periscope into the past. Not because of the stories, but the way they're packaged. It's like your TV's haunted by unhappy spirits, not wailing and screaming, just faintly miserable and cold.
It's also a test of your patience, because the pace is glacial.
The report shows output has continued to decline over the past 4 months.
Yeah.
Have become a little more optimistic about their prospects.
And?
Some industries making consumer goods
Spit it out.
because of the Christmas and January sales boom.
Oh God, I hope someone sets a bomb off or something, liven this shit up.
To make matters worse, many reports consisted of just a photo of a stern, vaguely angry-looking man stuck onto a photograph.
It's hard to assess exactly what difference the bumming halt could make.
He said bumming.
Some defectors from the other side, for example, don't think the bumming was very effective.
Bumming.
The bumming is credited with having helped to keep supply routes open and with causing sometimes heavy casualties.
Heavy casualties.
When reports do move, they're often on film, which makes them look like excerpts from a carry-on film, a bloody boring one without any punchlines.
I believe that things are now too serious.
Do something about it then. Do a comic jig, you dead racist.
What you mainly notice is what's missing. No bombastic sets, just a human and a very basic backdrop. Sometimes they're superimposed against a newsroom, which can be confusing if they cut to a different angle.
So from Richard Whitmore and me, that's all for the present.
Sometimes they like to sit in front of an eye-f***ing optical illusion just to liven things up.
The Marines have just arrived in the jointly ruled islands from Britain.
Oh, my.
But generally everything's clearer, even the captions. There's an emphasis on fact, not analysis.
Today, if Gordon Brown blows off, they get a methane correspondent into the studio to describe the smell and guess what he's eaten for lunch. Whereas here, back in the day, everything's just dished up in a more matter-of-fact manner, you know, like you're an adult and shit. It's so matter-of-fact, it sometimes catches you unawares by suddenly throwing in gruesome images without warning. If you're a sensitive viewer, please look away now.
This is what happened when a Manchester carpenter put his arm across a circular saw.
If you've been affected by any of the issues in that picture, phone the National Buzzsaw Incident Hotline on 08081 1.
The newsreaders themselves are such cold fish, some of them are downright scary, especially old Face of Death here.
What again?
Where? Oh God, he gives me the willies. Of course, the anchors are traditionally meant to be a neutral presence. That's why they're so serious. Today's newsreaders, such as gorgeous pouting Fiona Bruce here or whiny Kay Burley, are gradually becoming more emotive. They've got a long way to go before they catch up with their pioneering US counterparts. On the not-at-all scaremongering Fox News network, for example, the hosts don't just emote but regularly lose their rags.
Caution, you are about to enter the no-spin zone. The factor begins right now.
The most conspicuous example is fearless patriot Bill O'Reilly. In this vintage clip, which highlights all his good qualities, good old Bill shouts down a young man who lost his father in 9/11 and had the temerity to oppose the war in Afghanistan against Bill's better judgment.
You didn't support the action against Afghanistan to remove the Taliban. You were against it.
Why would I want to brutalize and further punish the people in Afghanistan?
Who killed your father?
Yeah, right on, Bill.
Didn't kill my father.
Sure they did. The Al-Qaeda people were trained there.
The Al-Qaeda people? What about the Afghanistan?
See, I'm more angry about it than you are.
So what about George Bush?
What about George Bush? He had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, you tell that bereaved bastard.
Because you... That's it. I'm not going to say any more.
Okay.
In respect for your father...
September 14th, you want to know what I was doing?
Shut up.
Oh, please don't tell me to shut up.
In respect for your father, who was a Port Authority worker, a fine American, who got killed unnecessarily by barbarians.
By radical extremists trained by this government.
Respect
not
for
the
him.
People of America,
I'm not
the
going to
people,
dress
the ruling class, the small minority.
Cut his mic. I'm not going to dress you down anymore, out of respect for your father. We'll be back in a moment with more of the factor.
We're done?
We're done.
What an absolute cast-iron anchor. We all know how it feels to watch the news. It's what you're doing now. But how does it feel to be a TV journalist? Me has this report. To get the inside scoop on the news, I put some questions to a genuine TV reporter. To protect his identity, he's portrayed here by a researcher in silhouette with a disguised voice. What makes one story more important than another?
Some stories are good because everybody's talking about them. Some are because they affect huge numbers of people. Some are good because there's dramatic pictures. Some are good because they're exclusive. And some are good because all the others are worse. It's a matter of instinct. Sky and ITV will rate a story as important because it's got visceral, emotional appeal.
We speak to one teenage victim about what action can be taken to stop it happening to your children.
The BBC go more in terms of measurable consequence. Yeah, they tend to be sniffy about pure pathos.
What's it like when a big story breaks?
You can always tell when that's happened because everyone in the newsroom stands up to use the phone. It's like all the f***ing chairs have vanished. When a news editor calls through to the producer who tells the director, who pushes a button and speaks into the presenter's ear hole, while the producer writes a breaking news strap and gets his finger ready on the whoosh button.
News we're receiving within the last few moments. I can tell you a new disease that we're not terribly familiar with, blue tongue disease.
Well, now, this is the hardest bit, yeah. Just after you've broken the fact, but before anyone knows any more, it's this scenario which produces the worst bits of rolling news, the talking without saying anything bollocks.
Visible characteristics of the disease include a fever that may last for several days, mucus lining the animal's mouth, nose and eyes, and excessive salivation and frothing. Anyway, we're getting into details there that only vets need to know about.
If it's a proper breaking story, the prize is to get the first live pictures from the scene. Then the presenters move into narration mode and just talk over whatever they can see.
And we will find out what's going on as far as those people inside are concerned.
At this point, the job becomes much easier, provided you have a continuous flow of live pictures. I mean, if the cameraman doesn't know your life from his camera and he puts it down over a fag and a piss, then the results can be a little weird.
Just the live pictures here, just chopping and changing it.
The way the straps are put up in a tearing hurry to break the story can have disastrous consequences.
Joining you now with some breaking news here at the Sky News Centre. We have Harold Pinter who's joining us. The playwright Harold Pinter, I believe, has just died. Has won the Nobel Prize for Literature. Apologies for that.